Hello, everyone. We're so excited about today's Life on Purpose Live. We have Melinda Stallings with us. She is the positive coach. She spends most of her time traveling the country and beyond, teaching Fortune 1000 companies, executives, or people like me that are just trying to get my life in order and prioritize my decisions. So she is known as the positive coach. She has spent years investing in what she now does as training across the country. So we're so excited to have Melinda. Melinda, hi.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me today, Beth. I'm just really honored to be here with you today.
I'm so glad to have you. Well, I want to jump right in with something I think a lot of us will relate to. You were an overnight success story that took 15 years. Oh my goodness, I understand that. So how did that happen?
Exactly, Beth. Well, you have this idea, right? Something comes to you. I call it a God nudge. And in actuality, I did start the business once before, and I was living in Texas at the time. I quit my full-time safe job and started the consulting business, and then the market crashed in 2008. And so that set me back into going back and finding a quote unquote safe job because I was a single mom raising two children. But I did not give up on that dream because I knew that that was a seed that God had planted in me. If an idea comes to you, I'm really a firm believer that that's a God nudge, and to honor that. And so I went back into work in higher ed, which I love so much, and working with corporate clients. And then you had an opportunity to move back to Baton Rouge, long story short, to be with my brother. And the business has been building, but it really didn't build that much until, unfortunately, I lost my brother to a heart attack. But God works in mysterious ways, Beth. And while I miss him terribly, and would I love to have him with me? Yes, I would. But God has used his passing and just the life that he lived and the lessons that I learned from him in such a magnificent way for me to really pass on the power of positive and truly, really embrace it in my own life. So, yeah, it has taken at least 15 years, but what happens is you gather such momentum after a while. And I've been really blessed lately. I've spoken at Carnegie Hall. I've spoken at Harvard. I'll be going to Rockefeller Center in a couple of weeks. LA. It's just been such a blessing for me to be able to bless other people with the gift that God gave me. It is God's gift of the power of positive. And so while it may seem like I'm bursting on the scene, it's been a journey.
And when people hear the word positive, they think, oh yeah, if only I'd be more positive if I had circumstances in my life that were positive, and if all the stars lined up, and if things were positive. But you know, your life hasn't been all positive. But how do you maintain that attitude of trying to expect the best as you trudge through some difficult circumstances, whether it be at work or home?
Yeah. So Beth, there's scripture that alludes to this too shall pass. I think sometimes we get caught in the trap of comparing ourselves to each other, especially with social media right now. We're looking at people feeding things, being wonderful in their life. My life is not all roses, but one of the things that I always say is you always have a choice and to choose positive. And I cocoon sometimes. I think that's normal, that's natural. I have to go in and process why something is hurting me or affecting me, or what lesson do I need to get from this, or more to the point, what gift comes from it. And I truly believe that if you decide that you're going to be positive, then positive things are going to follow. If you decide that you're going to be negative, then you can rest assured that you're going to have probably a bad day. More bad things are going to happen. But sometimes we just have to kind of back off a little bit so we can let the pendulum swing back to the positive side. Well, I feel like we have a choice.
Well, and a question to that is, how important is the discipline of choosing the right words?
Oh, that is critically important, Beth. I tell the story about when my mom died and the 7 life affirming words she gave me when she came to me in a dream. And the only thing she said to me was, honey, it doesn't have to be hard. And I was trying to figure out what doesn't have to be hard, what doesn't have to be hard. And the story is in my book and in some of the other videos. So I invite you all to check that out. But what I realized is that she was talking about anything, everything. It doesn't have to be hard. We are the ones who choose whether we're going to tell ourselves, oh, I can't do this. This is so hard. And so I never use the word hard any longer. I use the word challenging, because hard means I'm going to hit a brick wall, but challenging means that wall is still there, but I know that I can climb over that wall. It's going to take me a little bit of effort. And I'm very careful to use positive, affirming words, even when talking with myself. I have this habit of kind of correcting people when they start using negatively charged words, and I'm always interjecting the positive, and most people chuckle and they're like, oh, okay, thank you. But it's really important, the language that we use when we talk to ourselves and to other individuals, especially little kids.
Well, and I think that's such a powerful thing, and it's a great discipline, because once we start adjusting our words to what we want them to reflect our goals and our faith, it makes such a big difference. But one of the things you talk about is impacting the world around you. So when you go out and you teach a seminar or you coach someone one-on-one, you've got a one-shot chance to have an impact. How important is that for us as Christians?
That's everything, really, Beth, because sometimes we only get an opportunity. If I'm in a large audience, I only get one opportunity to show them what God has done in my life, show them his love that comes through me, because everything I do is his. It is his gift that shines through me. And if I go and I say I'm the positive coach or the positive consultant, and yet I bring across a negative message, then I am not honoring that gift that God gave to me. And sometimes that's the only chance a person may have to see that positive light, because they're raised in circumstances that aren't so positive, or they're in a place in their life where they need a positive light. So yeah, it's critical, Beth. It's really everything. I want to be on. I do, because I'm the face of God a lot of times when I'm out talking with people, and I think it's critically important that I really show his love.
Well, and we're called to be the light of the world, and we're called to be the salt of the earth. And that puts some pressure on us as Christians to remember that we are the face of Christ. We carry him into the world. That doesn't mean we're always perfect. That doesn't mean our life is always perfect, but we're also called to make the most of every opportunity. And that means being ready for whoever God may bring across our path.
Exactly. Yeah. I've been blessed to have him bring you across my path. And you're one of the most positive people I know also, Beth. I mean, your story is amazing, and everything that you've come through, and look at you now. You've entertained and engaged some of the most amazing people in the world. And how delightful that we get to hear their story of how positivity brought them through life. And that's an interesting concept. The celebrities that I've met, the mega influencers that I've met, I always ask the same question. Tell me, how important is the power of positive in your life? And every one of them, not one to date, has said anything other than it is so important, because if I want to be a success, if I want to model the way for other people, I have to keep it positive. Even corporations, they don't want a negative return on investment. They want a positive return on investment. Positively engaged employees. So being positive, it's a learned way of being, because we're living in a negative society.
Right.
But again, you always have a choice, and I say choose positive.
Well, and invest wisely in the people that you choose to be around. And this is, I mean, especially true for young people, but it's also true for us, no matter how old we are, to choose to invest in times with people who bring us up instead of pull us down. We can choose that.
Exactly. And we should choose that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we can help pull someone through. And one of the things, if they are going through a tough time, we can choose to help pull someone through by still being wise with, the boundaries and things like that. But what do you do with someone who is looking for a breakthrough? They're feeling more like they're at a breakdown, but they really want to get over the other side. I mean, there's some people that'll watch this and they're like, you don't understand what I'm going through. And you're right. We've been there. You've been there. We know those moments. Yeah. But what do you say when you're in a breakdown? What are a couple of key steps to get to the other side of breakthrough?
Beth, the first thing I do is I don't say anything. I actually listen to the person, because many times they have been either suffering in silence, or they're talking to people and they're just trying to articulate what's happening in their life. And maybe they're around the same people all the time and they don't want to hear it any longer. I remember when I lost my brother, I just wanted to talk about him. It was just, I just needed to talk about him. And it got to the point where when people would hear me say his name, I could almost see the look on their face, like, oh my gosh, she's going to start again. Yeah. But one of the things that really taught me was compassion, and knowing that sometimes people just need someone to listen to them. Then from there, a lot of times I bring my scripture into it, and I really love the Beatitudes a lot. Yeah. We have all been at some point in time one of the aspects of the Beatitudes, and just really love that person. My mom used to say, those that deserve it the least need it the most. And she was so wise, because individuals who are hurting often act in fear, often act in anger, and often act in dejectedness. And so being able to help them move through by being encouraging, helping them to see the other side of what the issue may be, and how they can turn it into a positive, and how they can turn it into a gift and a life lesson. And it takes time, patience, and a lot of love and understanding for both of us. Right. And sometimes in coaching situations, people push back as well. And so I have to be open to allowing them to do that, because it's just part of the discovery process.
Well, and one of the tips that you offer to be successful in, whether at work or whatever we're doing, we have a lot of ministry people here, is we're all so different. And it's a great thing that we're all so different. Yeah. And so how do we go out into the world and accept others for who they are? It's a very important thing to be able to do, but we're all different. That's a good thing, right?
That's a really positive thing, because just think about it. If we were all the same, what fun would life be? And I think that it's important, especially for those people who kind of like get underneath your fingernail or make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, to really be open to embracing how they see life. I do a lot of work with personality assessments and helping people understand that our differences can sometimes be our greatest assets, and understanding one another and opening each other to new and better ideas. Yeah. It is about being objective, about really knowing, especially if you're going into a situation. Let's say that you've known this person and you're saying, okay, I'll go in, but I know what's going to happen. To reframe that and to say, I'm going to go in and I'm going to see this person, and I'm going to have a success strategy this time. I'm going to listen, and I'm going to ask them to help me understand. That's my 3 favorite words to use.
Help me understand.
Help me understand. Because then that takes the fear and the anger and the pushback out of it, because it's an invitation. I'm not understanding. Please help me understand.
And we have a question here, which, I want to get to conflict resolution, because this is a big deal. We're very bad at it in most families and at work. But here's a question that someone has sent in. How do millennials who are inundated with so much negative messaging and struggling with student debt and working at a level below their education find the type of positive coaches or role models to escape that negativity and see an upside? You deal with a lot of students. I know you're on the Arkansas University of Arkansas, LSU. You work on major universities. What would you say to those millennials that want to set themselves apart and not be lumped into unfair categorizations that a lot of times they get pushed into?
Yeah, I think it's all about positive mindset mastery. Truly, they have been raised with that social media where there is uber comparison. And I think that gosh, the millennials really do get they get a bad rap a lot of times. The students that I work with, the young people that I work with in volunteer capacities, they are sharp, they're dedicated, they want to make a difference. They just go about things differently than boomers or whomever. And I think it's incumbent upon us as individuals who maybe have a little bit more experience in our life to give them a chance, to not automatically lump them into, well, they don't want to work, or they, all they're interested in is the raise. They are interested in the raise because it's kind of how we've trained them. I used to joke I have a love-hate relationship with Mr. Rogers. I do love him, but in life, everybody doesn't get a trophy.
Yeah.
And so how do we help them to see that patience, and one of my favorite Bible verses is from Isaiah, and it says, let me see, I've got it here real quick. That in I just had it, I'm sorry.
It's all right.
When the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen. I think that there is, and that's Isaiah 60:22. And I think that they don't have a lot of patience because it has been immediate gratification for them. And so helping them to learn how to sit back and relax and take it in and see what unfolds, and really bringing them, I think, to Christ also, letting them know that he has a plan for them. Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, plans to give you hope and a future, plans to prosper you and not to harm you. And if they have just not really had that sink in or had that, really modeled for them, then it's challenging for them to really embrace that.
Well, and let me say on that. So say they haven't had it modeled for them. What about us and the responsibility we have as adults, mature adults who've got some life experience, to be available to a younger generation to model not only our faith, but responsible decision making? I mean, some of it, you're saying we tell them these things. That means we've got to be engaging with them and available to them.
Exactly. And so when one of them comes to us, we need to be available.
Yeah.
And we need to have that. Sometimes we need a listener's response, which is, again, we don't say anything. We just let them talk, because letting them talk, we can really get valuable information about what it is that they want and what it is that they need, because they're not real good at asking they'll ask for a raise or a promotion, but they're not really good at asking for the really deep things. It makes them very vulnerable. And so being available to help them move through some of those things is important. How can you do that? Through small groups in church, through a coffee shop. A lot of times if I'm on campus and, I see a young man or a young woman sitting there, I will just ask them how school is going and how their life is, and do they have any challenges? And it is amazing how they light up because someone just stopped and asked them, how's your day? And how is it treating you?
And it's great when it's an adult that stops and says, hey, how are you? It's because, we can mama anybody.
Exactly. And we do.
Yeah, we do. And we should. We should be mama in more people and daddy in more people. I just think that's a great thing. And also to everyone to choose friends and who they surround themselves, which means let's go into leadership.
Okay.
Leaders, are they made or are they born?
There are very few leaders who are made. Most of them know that they have some greatness within them. I do believe that there are people who feel like they are leadership potential, and so they spend their life honing those skills and learning what they need to do in order to be leaders. But leaders, first and foremost, need to be humble. The first thing that they need to do is to be able to serve. And I used to have a university president that I worked for, and he once told me as we were walking across campus, he said, Mindy, he said, as a leader, every once in a while, I need to turn around and make sure that there are people following me, because otherwise I'm just taking a walk in the park.
Ah.
And yeah, I thought it stuck with me, right? And so as a leader, though, we have to make sure that we are taking into account really the humanness of our employees, the humanness of the people that work with us and for us. And I want to emphasize work with us, because it's a co-creative effort every day. No one wants to feel marginalized. No one wants to be jammed. Sometimes people have bad days, but if you're a leader and you have that kind of visceral reaction where maybe you react poorly sometimes, the best thing that you can do to build trust and respect is to just apologize. People love it when people are human. Most people, not most, but some people think that would be a sign of weakness. It is not. It is a sign of greatness. It is a sign of, hey, I'm human. I had a human moment. I'm still your leader. And one of the other things, one of the top qualities of a leader is the ability to remain calm. So in crisis times, be that person that people can come to and field questions and talk about their fears and their concerns. Once again, it's model the way as Christ did. He didn't get mad, except maybe with the money changers.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it was just, he listened and he responded and he talked calmly and he engaged everybody and involved everybody. And so what better leadership style could you emulate than that?
That is the best. Well, and one of the things that I think cripples us sometimes is we think, gosh, I have so many bad habits. I'd really like to, have better habits. Maybe it's exercise more. Maybe it's eat better. How do you take bad habits and begin to develop better habits that help bring in more of a positive perspective?
Oh, that's a great question, Beth, because our habits are formed by the time that we're 7 years of age, because that's when our personality is formed. So whatever behaviors we do, we continue those behaviors because that's what gets us the attention we need. And then they become deeply ingrained in us. So we've got to first be aware. Awareness is the key in life. Being aware. Who am I? What's working for me? What's not working for me? How am I talking to myself? I don't need people to put me down because I'm degrading myself every time I have a conversation with myself. If that's the case, then we need to be able to find that which is going to motivate us. It's almost like finding the why, like Simon Sinek says, but it's beyond that. It is finding that which is going to bring us closer to that feeling of peace, closer to that feeling of joy, because I really believe in life, joy is the number one aspect that we can achieve, that we can strive for, because when we find joy, we just want to spread that. But those habits have to be identified. That individual is the only person who can identify what those habits are that they want to break. I've tried to change people before. That didn't work for me. And so once identifying it, though, you've really got to persevere. You have got to remind yourself why it's so important that habit gets changed, and visualize and feel what the success is going to look like and feel like, and what your life is going to be like. God said that we have to have faith. And faith is truly, when you want to break it down into human terms, it is visualizing and feeling. What does that look like that you say, okay, well, I'm going to have faith that this is going to happen. So I need to think it. I need to see it. I need to feel it. And then God finds a way to bring people, places, and situations into your life to make that become real.
And
that's amazing.
And that is the transformation of Christ in us. We read a statement one day that it's not about self improvement, it's about self replacement. So
I love that.
Yeah, the more we surrender to the Christ in us, the more he begins to fill those buckets. But we have to seek that. We have to invite him in and give him the freedom to our purpose and bringing that about.
Amen.
Well,
amen.
We could talk all day. I could talk to you all day, but I'm not going to because our time is up. But so how do people find your book? What's your book called?
The book is The Power of Positive Conflict Resolution. I have a new book coming out, The Power of Positive, which will highlight how to achieve positive mindset mastery and change some of those habits that you were talking about. Both aren't available right now because one is being reprinted and the other is being edited to go to the printer, but they will be available on Amazon and on my website, of course. And my website is www.melindastallings.com or www.thepositivecoach.com. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn and on Facebook, and I would be delighted for you to do that. I post positive pointers weekly, semi-weekly. I was posting daily, but life has gotten kind of wacky, so I'm going to get back into that great habit.
It's all you're all over the world, so you got to have time to post things, right?
Praise God. Well, now I can bless someone else and bring them on to do that for me. So that's what I'll be doing.
That's very good. Well,
please reach out to me if I can be of help for you in any way. Pray for you. I do that a lot too.
And individual coaching as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if someone really
individual and group coaching for teams.
That's very good. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. This has been so much fun. It's always, it inspires me to be around you because it reminds me that I do have choices to make every day and I need to choose the wise choice, the better choice, and be the best me I can possibly be.
Yeah. Thank you, Beth. It's really been an honor and a privilege to be on your show.
And we're going to repost this so it'll be running so people can go back and watch it. But thank you so much. We'll do this again and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Okay, my pleasure. God bless you, everyone.
You too. All right, talk to you later. Bye-bye.